Harmonics. And sorry, I'm a little bit late for the show today, but getting out quotes, talking to farmers, busy guy. But that's no excuse. I wanted to just discuss, some of the things that I get from farmers. One of the reactions that I get sometimes is it's kind of like almost an overwhelming sensation. Like they kind of look at our technology and they think this is complicated. It's too complicated. It's too difficult to understand. You're talking about physics and you're talking about cells and how the whole thing works. And, fair enough. Our technology is not something, I mean, it took, I should say, the inventor 24 years to develop this technology. So and this guy has knowledge, breadth of knowledge in many different fields in medicine, in chemistry, in physics, in different branches of science, that he pulled all of this information together and was able to develop a technology that could be hugely beneficial. And sometimes when you look at industries that have been going along for a while, like agriculture, you see that to really innovate, sometimes you can't. It's not always that true innovation is not going to come from people within the industry. So I wouldn't expect Bayer, for example, or Syngenta, or some of these other companies to come up with a solution that's going to radically change the marketplace. It's going to radically change the way agriculture is being done for two reasons. Number one, they kind of have a methodology and a thinking, their thought pattern, their paradigm, if you will, the way they think and the way they approach the problem of agriculture is already well established in terms of chemistry and genetics and these types of things. So they're looking at the problem of how do we improve insect resistance? How do we improve yields? How do we improve soil health? They're looking at it from a chemical standpoint, right? And in some cases, they're looking at it from a genetic standpoint, a biological standpoint, but they're looking at it from a biological standpoint in relationship to chemistry, right? You look at Bayer, for example, or Monsanto, and they've developed GMOs primarily in an effort to make plants resistant to their chemical, to their glyphosate, right? So they're looking for ways to so that they can have farmers use their glyphosate to kill all the weeds, and yet their plants are surviving, their plants are not being harmed, right? So they're looking at that problem from a chemical standpoint. And I'm not going to make any value judgments about whether that's a good thing or bad thing, whatever. I'll leave that to you guys. But I'm just going to make the point that they're looking at innovation from the standpoint of how do we innovate for better quality chemicals or better quality fertilizers or better quality genetics that are going to take advantage of those chemicals, right? But if you want true innovation, then that kind of innovation is not going to be done by a company that's looking to continue the existing paradigm, because their entire paradigm is their lifeblood. It's their business lifeblood. It's how they make their money, and of course their methodology of thinking. So if you want to look at how do we replace chemicals or eliminate chemicals, you're probably not going to find too much innovation in the way of those chemical companies, because why would they research themselves out of business, or why would they research themselves out of their profit margin and out of their revenue streams? It's probably not going to happen. And that's just business. That's just reality. I'm not even making any value judgments at all. So when we look at the Kyminasi Crop Booster, when we look at biophysics, when we look at true innovation and changing the paradigm, changing the mentality, with that comes a challenge. And that challenge is, how do we actually educate people about these different aspects and the way this new technology works? How do we educate to give people a deeper understanding of the methodology and the theory and the logic behind this new innovation? And how do we educate people as far as the results and why the certain results, not just the end result, but how we actually got there? And that's actually the main reason why we created our data evaluation program, because we really knew that we had to educate farmers. And we also knew that the farmers that were having the best results were the ones that were measuring everything. They were already precision farmers. They were already looking at how to improve their farm. They were already, consistently trying to improve and innovate on their farm, just in the way that they did farming. But farmers that were just kind of set it and forget it, they wanted to plant a seed, they wanted to prepare everything, and they just put everything on automatic. Those guys, if they weren't paying attention or weren't looking, sometimes at the end of the season would say, well, I don't know, I didn't see much result. Well, if you're not walking the fields, or you're not looking at the fruit, or you're not counting the corns, and you're not doing the various in-depth precision measurements, maybe you're not going to always see everything. Maybe it's just going to start looking like a big 30,000 acre field, right? As opposed to, hey, those plants look a lot greener than these other plants. Hey, these plants have 2 years of corn versus one, this type of thing. Or hey, this pepper plant's flowering a lot more and producing a lot more peppers than this other plant over here, right? If you're not actually paying attention to that, it's not something you're going to necessarily see all the time. So when we looked at that and said, how do we really prove that we're getting the results that we're getting? If they're not going to measure it, they're not going to see, well, our Kyminasi field produced twice as much as the other field, right? But the ones who measure, the ones who actually did that work, did see the results and did see those different things. They did see the quality in the plants, did see all that stuff. So just to let you guys know, and in this episode, I wanted to educate a little bit about how photosynthesis works. Now, if you think the Kyminasi Plant Booster was complicated, we really should just hone in on how exactly the process works, because photosynthesis itself is a fairly complicated process. I mean, we take plants for granted because we're working with them every day and we don't necessarily need to know all these different details, right? But if you really understand how photosynthesis works and you understand how photosynthesis can go really right and really wrong, then I think it'll make a lot more sense. And the crop booster and how it works and how it can benefit will make a lot more sense too, because one of the things we've realized that we have to do is, it's not just enough to say, hey, our system is getting more yield. We have to walk people through how we got there. So I just wanted to take a minute here to show you specifically on photosynthesis. Again, just as a recap, or maybe as a way to look at this, plants that have more energy have a number of benefits. They grow faster and stronger. Plants with more energy produce more fruits and more vegetables. They produce higher quality fruit and vegetables, like higher Brix and better quality ratings. They resist insects and pests and funguses better. They also feed soil microbiology. And that's a really key component, because if you're tired of paying a ton of money in fertilizer costs or chemical costs, if you can learn to take care of your soil, then you're going to be able to have a sustainable product that's going to reduce your input costs over time as opposed to increasing them, right? And plants with more energy are also more resilient to weather and other stress factors, right? So in looking at this, how do we actually achieve this? How do we boost energy in the plant? And of course, the Kyminasi crop booster approach is through biophysics. And I'm going to explain that here. So biophysics is based upon the fact that biological systems of all plants and really all living things are coordinated according to specific frequency patterns, right? This allows them to produce and use energy efficiently. Now, we probably don't think of metabolism of living things very often, especially if we're busy with farming, but plants have a metabolism just like human beings do, right? How they generate energy and how they produce energy and how they use energy is different, obviously, than humans or animals, but plants have their own way of converting energy from the sun and energy from the soil into glucose, which ultimately they use for growing, right? And that energy conversion through photosynthesis is an important and key component to all life on Earth. Now, again, we probably know the basics of photosynthesis, but how exactly does photosynthesis work? And how do we really do a little biohack on photosynthesis, if you will? And how do we hack into this process without doing genetic manipulations? But how do we really take this process and make it as efficient as possible, right? Because ultimately, it's not just a matter of having all the nutrients or having all everything that the plant needs. If that plant is not efficient in how it uses those water and nutrients, then you're not going to get the end result of better yield at the end of the day, right? You're just not going to see that final result where you get the extra yield. In other words, adding 30% more nitrogen and phosphorus and potassium to your fertility program is not necessarily going to generate 30% more yield. I don't think I would get much disagreement there. So the question then would be why? Well, if I'm increasing my inputs by 30%, wouldn't I get 30% more output? Well, if the system was perfect, yes, you would, but the system is not perfect. So the question then becomes and this is our alternative approach, as opposed to looking at how do we improve the soil and nutrients and water and everything else, but how do we actually get the plant itself, those biological systems, how do we get it to be as efficient as humanly possible? And the answer to that question is by looking at how those cellular interactions in the plant occur and how those biological systems are all timed and tuned together so that all that process works in perfect harmony with each other. If you think about it, like if you were said to a doctor, hey, I have low energy, I'm just feeling tired all the time, I'm not feeling energetic, and the doctor just said, go home and eat 15 cheeseburgers a day and you'll have plenty of energy, you'd probably look at the doctor and say, what are you talking about? Well, because eating all those extra calories is not going to make your body use those calories efficiently so that you feel more energetic. But if you can look at how your body's using energy, we might be able to actually make your body more efficient. And that's why they say go exercise, eat good foods, not just a bunch of calories. Like don't eat a milkshake, but maybe eat a bunch of vegetables, for example, with a lot of nutrients. And eating the right types of food at the right time and exercising and these different things is what's going to make your body more energetic, right? Well, looking at a plant, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, we can't make a plant exercise, but what if we can make the nutrient absorption in the roots much more efficient? What if we can make the transport of the water and nutrients through the stem more efficient? What if we can make the absorption of carbon dioxide through the leaves more efficient? And what if we can make the way that the plant absorbs that sunlight and converts those different water and carbon dioxide into sugar molecules? What if we can make that more efficient? And that really is the basis of the Kyminasi crop booster technology. Yes, I can go into all the physics that underlies all of those different aspects. And believe me, I'm sure most of you guys, if you're not already physicists or agronomists or really interested in the science behind that, I'm sure that that would be something that might put you to sleep. But I just wanted to let you know that the photosynthesis process and how plants do what they do can be very complicated. We can really spend days or weeks or even months looking through that process, but all that work has been done for you with the Kyminasi crop booster. All you have to do is install our product onto your irrigation system and water your crops, and our system will handle the internal workings of the plant to make sure that plant is as efficient as possible in using the water and nutrients that we're giving it so that you get the maximum yield and the best quality. And we have a very special program going on right now. Not only are we running a very special program that we run a very special detailed trial with you, but that trialing process will also qualify you for R&D tax credits with the IRS. So we can actually qualify you for tax credits just for trying something that will actually improve your farm. And that's been written into the IRS code because the IRS is trying to help reward innovation, reward progress, and help farmers be a part of that process. And so that's something that we have specialists that can work with you on if you're interested. But we want you to do the testing because we want you to visually see and measure and see all those results and see all that data so you can know that this crop booster really is the best thing for your farm. So if you want to be more profitable as a farmer this year and many years to come, then you need to look at how do I innovate, but how do I innovate responsibly, and how do I innovate in a way that's going to make my farm better, not just in terms of yield, but better in terms of soil quality, better in terms of plant health, and better in terms of efficiency of operation. Because the more you can be efficient, the more profitable you'll be. And of course, that will give you the energy you need to stay in business and expand your operation. So hopefully we can work together very soon. If you want more information about our crop booster and how we can work together with you on your farm, or how the R&D tax credits work, or how our trialing system works and how we can help you qualify for that as well, then give us a call at 727-324-6750, or of course email me at service@harvestharmonics.com, and I'd be happy to work with you one-on-one. Have a great day, guys. We'll talk again very